if we're going to wait a couple of minutes for them, why don't we open up to any questions people have, and let's just start there with just general questions, things that people are thinking about, and while we're waiting for people to arrive.
Okay, Calvin already has a question. He's asking about commercial insurance coverage for the bus. Who provides the most comprehensive and economical coverage? You want to take that?
Yeah, actually, the challenge we run into with the insurance is it varies from state to state.
Hey, Lyle, pause real quick. Okay, go ahead. I'm just going to unmute you.
Yeah, I got that echo again. But we found that it does vary from state to state. The best companies have turned out to be State Farm. One of the things I work to deal with my insurance agent, if anybody wants to go to a State Farm, they can call my agent and he'll walk them through the parameters of the layout that he uses to insure the bus, as well as buildings and kiosks. And he can walk through, because he provides not only our liability insurance from a vehicle, from a property and casualty perspective, but also from the business insurance, that, you know, if somebody gets sick from eating a snow cone and that kind of thing, you know, runs a kid over, you got both the liability from a business perspective as well as property damage. And he will work with anybody that is out there. Obviously another State Farm agent is who he's going to share that with. And I took good care of him. He's got a bunch of kids and they get free snow cones all the time. So there's a trade-off there. He's willing to spend a little bit of time to help them go through that. We have a number of people. I'm trying to think. Aaron, who do you guys use out there? Farmers does well.
No,
We're talking about insurance.
I know.
Estela?
A lot of them are going through their, you know, with their own like home insurance, whoever that is. They're using, or, you know, that company that they're using for their home. They go through them. But in the past, it's been years, we used to use Zion's insurance. I don't know if people are still going through Zion's. We used to refer them. But I think what I've been telling my customers is, you know, go through your own, whoever you're using for your home, your auto, and see, because they basically do that all. I mean, they do all of the kind of insurance that you need. So that's what I've been telling my clients at this point. Is just
well, I think Zion's, I think, actually used Hartford Insurance Company.
Right.
Zion's was your agency. I was trying to think of it. It was Hartford that they were using. But I found, like you say, you know, State Farm, Farmers, most of them have done a pretty good job of offering something that, you know, one of the things, if you've got an insurance agent who's not sure and has questions, he's welcome to call us and we can just give him the basic outline of what to look for. As most of them have just never done anything like this before. And the reason I recommend the State Farm is simply that they have another agent that's familiar with it, that knows it, that they can call him up and with just a few quick questions can do it. What is the average estimate for the insurance? If you're insuring just a kiosk or a building, typically you're going to probably run an insurance minimum, which is $500 a year. What I find, if you add a second unit, it typically only goes up about $250, $300, because you were at that minimum of $500 when the liability is only about $400. When you go to the bus, again, it'll vary from state to state or even city to city. It's a zip code driven rate. However, I'm finding the average is somewhere in the $2,500 to $3,500 a year range. That insures the vehicle as well as the business liability side of that. What are the best ways to find workers? I'll hit that real quick, but we're going to actually put that out. I was looking at some of our future webinars, and that's going to be one of our topics of how do I find workers, how do I manage them, how do I schedule them, how do I train them. We have a whole series of things that we've put together to help with that and support with it. But honestly, my greatest source it took me a while to figure it out. And this one is purely my experience. I'll give you a couple of quick stats to support it, but it doesn't mean it's by any means the end-all, be-all. But I have found the busiest kids I can find happen to be the best workers. And that seems counterintuitive, but a lot of times the kids that have nothing to do and aren't involved in anything is who everybody wants to hire, and they're the last ones to be on time. I hire them, and they're the ones they're late, and it's like, why were you late? And you finally get them to admit it. They were beating level 398 of some video game. To work for me, basically, I look for the honor roll student athlete. I'm looking for a kid that has figured out how to do well in school and has been able to be successful in a sport. And when you can balance those two, you've got somebody that understands the time management, the discipline, the commitment to whatever it is they're doing, both in school and in a sport. I just make sure I don't hire too many football players. I have a balance of spring sport, fall sport, winter sport, a couple of different high schools as you're doing it. But I go in and talk to coaches above all and say, I'm looking for somebody that does well academically, that will take instruction, that's personable, and is a team player. And I'm not looking for the all-star. I'm looking for the kid that's that general all-around good player. The all-star tends to be a little arrogant, and that comes across in front of the customers. So that's been my greatest success. Is I go in and start talking to coaches. I talk to the athletic director to get permission. I tried the business department. They have no idea most teachers teaching business don't know what to look for in an employee. But
Hey,
for what it's
Lyle?
worth, yeah.
Can I throw a comment in?
Absolutely, please.
So,
I'm tired of listening to me talk.
Years ago when I ran my stand, I noticed that I'd hire a bunch of full-time employees, which was my problem, because what would happen is that if they have an opportunity to go with their friends to go to an amusement park or go do something fun, then I would lose my worker. So what I ended up doing is I ended up just hiring a bunch of part-timers, which means the ones that really wanted the hours weren't getting them, and the ones that didn't care so much got what they wanted. And it balanced out so that I said, hey, if you can't make it to work, you better find somebody, because I know I've got some workers that are looking for some more hours. And it worked out better that way for me, because that way I wasn't left high and dry. And I had one person that I gave a full-time position that kind of helped me manage, but everybody else was part-time. And I made it that way so that the ones that really wanted the hours really kind of worked really hard to getting those if somebody really didn't care to be there that day. And that's just an option. I made everybody part-time. Those that wanted to pick up extra hours, I made it an effort to help them get that. But I found that in the past, when I didn't do that, I ended up not having anybody work my building, and it really was hard on me because I had to go in and do it.
Absolutely. I've never really thought about it that way. All my workers are part-time.
There you go.
Yeah. I'd say when I hire somebody new, we guarantee them 1 shift a week. The average is about 3 shifts a week. We'll talk later about the online scheduling and that. But I have a system where the kids can do all the trades and everything between them, and I never have to get involved in it. Yeah. And I have kids that work 5, 6, 7 shifts a week, so they can pick up and trade around all they want.
I think one of the questions, wasn't it, on how to get employees? Was that what the question was?
Yes, that's where we
started. I also comment that another great thing to do is, before you get started for the season and you've got your unit out for a couple weeks ahead of time, put a sign up that says, looking for employees. And you'll be surprised how many kids will be calling you if you have a sign up saying, we're opening up, I'm looking for employees. Please call this number if you were interested in a job. That's a great way of soliciting if you're looking for some employees. Another way is if you belong to a faith, maybe a church organization, if you know of some kids that that you would like to call on to work for you, that's another great opportunity to find workers. Just a few options there.
Yeah, I wanted to shift gears and kind of go into our meeting a bit. And really, the topic for our meeting today was for everyone to be able to hear from existing Snowie customers that weren't from corporate, that don't have the last name Rupp, and so that people are able to experience what people really are experiencing out there, and how it's worked out for them. And I believe, as far as what I'm able to tell, and there may be some phone callers, but right now the first name that I recognize that's one of our presenters is Ron. And Ron, I'm going to unmute you. Oh, it actually says send audio pin #4 to enable muting. Why?
Aaron, I'm going to shut
Ron, if you're looking at a computer and you might not have a mic on your computer, that may be what's going on. There's also in your meeting details, there's under audio, it says use telephone, and then it will give you a number to be able to call in. That would probably be a better option because we're not going to be able to hear you. What was that, Lyle?
I'm going to shut my video off for just a moment.
Okay, and we have, how tall are the buildings? I can't remember. Are we 12?
With the air conditioner, we're about 10 feet tall. The actual building itself is about 8. And that's not with the tires, okay? So when you add the tires in, then you're almost 12 feet if you were thinking, Aaron.
Where am I?
I hope that answers your question.
Perfect.
Where's my? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Oh, good. Hi. Sorry, I didn't. I was looking at you, but I was using the phone also because I couldn't hear anything. I mean, I couldn't say anything.
No, it's perfect. Thank you for joining us. Whoops. So, Ron, to make the transition to you, again, I just was mentioning, really the purpose of our meeting today was so that people were able to experience Snowie from a different perspective, and some people who have just gotten into it, some people have been doing it for longer, and the equipment that they use. Kind of a background too, what you did before, what got you into it, what made you decide to go with Snowie, things like that. Would you mind sharing some of those details with us?
I'd be glad to. My background was over 30 years in commercial banking and retired. My son saw a Snowie unit, and I'm located in Houston, Texas, by the way. My son saw a Snowie unit in a suburb west of Houston at a baseball event, and took a picture of it and showed it to me and said, "Hey, Dad, this would," and he's 33 years old, so he's been looking to do something a little different, as have I. And so I saw this Snowie, and I looked up online, and I said, "This looks really interesting." I've been looking for something that was kind of fun that could also generate some money and also have my family involved. And so I flew out to Salt Lake City and visited with the Rupps and Estela, and decided to buy in. So I'm just entering this this business, and I bought an 8x5 building and a Snowie 3000 shaver, and it took until the spring to get started. But back on, and I had to go get all kinds of, obviously, restaurant manager certificates and things like that, and deal with health service, and they won't let me put it on the ground and all these different things. And we're concentrating basically on Galveston County, which is south of Houston, because the Houston health department is really difficult to get into, and so we just do temporary permits. But we're just getting started. So I'm at an event. It's a crawfish festival, and Texas crawfish festivals are obviously huge. I'll tell you why in a minute. But there was in Pearland, Texas, which is south of Houston and down in Galveston County. And I was setting up in this event, and they had carnival rides, and they had diving dogs and all kinds of things, but mainly it was crawfish, barbecue, things like that. And I was setting up and getting all ready, and the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. I collapsed right in front of my building, had what's called sudden cardiac death. Had an 8% chance of survival. It just happened I collapsed in front of a police officer who was about 10 yards away, who started CPR on me, and a young girl, 22 years old, who had just finished her CPR training, and the two of them kept me alive without a heartbeat for 20 minutes until the ambulance arrived, and they shocked me and got me to Houston, and since that time, got me into the hospital in Houston. And since that time, I've had open heart surgery and 2 bypasses, and I'm in recovery, and I'm doing quite well right now. In fact, we had an event last weekend, but sum up my experience, none of my family knew. I mean, we had mixed flavors together. We had shaved ice. We had experimented with my son, my daughter-in-law, and my wife. My son decided, well, we've got this event. I can't do anything for Dad. I'm going to go out there and see if we can make some money for him. So he went out there and fired it up. We had a flavor station, which helped a great deal. And my brother-in-law, my sister, my daughter came into town. She lives in Kansas City. She came in. Everybody worked that unit. It was a 3-day event. We actually lost 10 hours because one of the blades broke. They got something in it, and it broke, and they had all kinds of problems and things. We lost 10 hours that 3 days. But I woke up in intensive care, and they showed me a receipt for over $5,000 in sales for that event. Obviously, that helped my recovery. It was the most exciting thing to get started, our first event, and we grossed over $5,000. Since that time, we've had several events. The last one was last weekend. We had another crawfish festival. My son got us in. And in 7 hours, we made $2,500 and actually shared $500 with the ROTC class at this school. So we're off to a good start. We're having another event this weekend. We haven't been doing local events. We're trying to learn individual baseball events, and sort of like my son works full time, and then here I am in recovery. But I'm actually getting more involved in it again. I was out last weekend shaving ice and taking money, and it was really, it's been a delightful experience. I'm looking to expand the business. As soon as I can get up to full speed, I'm driving again now, so that's good. So I've been home, and I'm glad to join this group and talk to you about it. It's been a great experience so far, and I'm a lucky person just to be here. Well, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And we're happy for you. We're all thrilled over here.
Dawn has joined us, Aaron.
Okay. Dawn, I have just unmuted you as well.
Hello.
If you could kind of gauge a little bit, probably off of Ron. Basically, we're just looking at your experiences coming into Snowie, kind of your background, what you did before, what got you to choose Snowie over the other competition, what got you interested in doing shaved ice in the first place, and things like that.
Well, I work full-time, had a side business doing inflatables. It was a franchise. That took me to IAPA in 2010, and that's where I discovered Snowie, and they had a bus there. Fell in love with the bus right away. Kept going back and going back over those 3 days, and I knew I was going to convince my husband to let me buy it. But what sold me on Snowie was when I tasted the snow cone, and the flavor was so good. Never had a snow cone that had, good flavor. So anyway, it took me about 3 months to convince my husband that we needed that Snowie bus. flew out to Salt Lake City, Utah in 2011, I think, and drove it back to Indiana. Since then, we were operated that one season with the Snowie bus, was very pleased. And then last year, we ended up buying a building. So we opened that at the end of July. We were very pleased. Just opened it back up in April. We were just rent space in a parking lot. Lyle helped us tremendously get set up and get things going. We now have 9 employees, not counting us, but they pretty much do all of it. It's nice. I still work full time. My husband still works full time, and I just told Lyle last night I need another bus. So it's going good. Love it. Snowie's great. They're supportive. We do buy your concentrates. I buy Snowie cups from Lyle. Everything is Snowie. The only thing I think I buy on my own are my napkins and my spoon straws, but I get them the same place that Lyle does, I think. So.
Great. Thank you very much.
Let me ask her a couple of questions real quick, Erin.
Yeah.
Don't you also use, I know your brother has a kiosk.
Oh.
Don't you use that as well?
I do, yes, if I have to, and I actually I book his events. I pretty much everything goes through me. All the contacts are all the business that he gets is coming from me. But I actually want to buy him out, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But yes, I do use his kiosk some.
Now, how much would you say your average sales are right now with your building?
About 300 a day, probably.
Okay.
Sometimes less, sometimes more. So we actually had Sunday was a record day for us at our building. So.
How much?
Almost 500.
Wow.
And we're only open 7 hours a day.
That's really good.
Yeah.
We were $500 at 7 hours. Yeah, $300 a day at 7 hours. Is that a pretty good day? That
yeah, it is. It is. So we're pleased. I love it. The community loves it as well. So they're like, all winter long, when are you guys opening? When are you guys opening? So and they look forward to it.
Okay. Erin, did we have a third?
Yeah. In fact, Beth, I'm muting you right now. Are you there, Beth?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing?
Great, how are you?
Great. Thank you very much for joining us. I just wanted to, I'm going to mute some other ones here. We're getting a little echo, but to talk about, basically you got on a little bit. I'm sure you've heard them talking, but we want you to share a little bit about your past, what you did before, what you do now, how you got into the business, what first sparked your interest in Snowie, and what ultimately made you decide to get into the business.
Well, we relocated from Ohio up to California about 7 years ago. We were in the real estate investment business, and we were actually, watching our company just dissipate right before the big bust in real estate. So we decided to move and be warm, and we got here and bought our first house and couldn't sell it. And I turned to my husband and I said, we can't do this again. So when I was a teenager, we did, a friend of mine and I had, we found a place to lease Dove bar carts. And we, around the Washington, D.C. area, we just made a lot of money at like the 4th of July, fireworks and just like street festivals and that sort of thing. So I knew, we were in the desert, and anywhere in this country in the summer it's pretty hot, and I knew there was an opportunity for us to sell something cold. So we didn't know exactly what. We were looking around, and then we went to a street fair here in our area, and we saw a guy with a brand new enclosed Snowie building, and it was something like I'd never seen before. And we just we were in awe of it, and I was taking pictures and trying to find a way to contact the company that made it. And of course, thanks to you guys with the Snowie.com on the back, we were able to contact you right away. And I'd say within about a month, we had our first Snowie building, which is a 5x8 enclosed building. and we started our business with that one building. We ended up at the same street fair this guy was at, but just the other end of the street. And it was just the beginning of a change in our whole, everything about, you know, our business, because at the time I was substitute teaching and my husband was working for the Marriott in sales, and now, you know, 7 years later, we're both full-time in the business, and we've never looked back.
That's great.
Beth, how many units do you have now?
Well, we have the enclosed building we actually just sold for a reason I'll tell you in a minute, but we have a cart, we have a 5x8 enclosed kiosk, which is the open one. We have an umbrella stand, we have a food truck now, and we also have the Snowie bus, which we just got a couple months ago. And when we got the bus, we actually sold the enclosed unit to help offset the cost of the bus. And we thought that the bus would pretty much replace the need for the enclosed building, you know, with the air conditioning. And the bus has been beyond what I could ever imagine. And again, we've been doing this for 7 years, and your equipment is exciting just in and of itself, but the bus is unlike anything anybody's ever seen, and it just has been awesome on every aspect of the business in terms of setting up, getting new contracts. You know, it's just so easy to use. It generates volume. I mean, at the gas station getting gas, you end up having people come over to you to either say, can you do our event, or can I buy whatever you're selling in that thing? Awesome. I'm sure everybody on this call has seen it and contemplated, you know, what could this do for my business? But it's just jump-started our business. In 7 years, we've been hearing from people calling us that we've never heard from before. So we've been getting huge contracts with schools and with churches, you know, Vacation Bible School events and Easter egg rolls and whole schools. I mean, you know, we were used to doing maybe a couple grade parties, but now we're doing whole schools. Next Tuesday we're going to a middle school and doing 1,100 elementary school, pardon me, and doing 1,100 kids in 2 hours out of the bus.
Awesome.
Beth, one of the questions on the screen, somebody said, you know, you've used all three. Which do you prefer, the bus, a building, or a kiosk, and why?
Without a doubt, the bus, and we have experience with everything, because the bus is, you know, it's unique. People have seen it, so even if you approach an event that says, oh no, we do that already, we have people that have been doing that, they don't have the equipment that you have, and there's no way that they can compete. You have such a competitive advantage over the bus with using the bus than any other. I'm sure the woman that was just speaking, I'm sorry I was late, so I didn't catch your name, but she can attest to the fact that the bus, there's no comparison. They could have 10 other shaved ice vendors, and when they see your equipment, they say, well, we'll get rid of somebody else. We want your equipment at our event. It's very special. You know, it appeals to, we're doing a graduation. Out here in California, the high schools are like mega schools. So we're doing a high school that has 3,200 kids and 800 graduates next week. And they graduate outside, and it's like almost 100 degrees here already. So they're doing a graduation rehearsal, and they called us and said, hey, could you give shaved ice to all of our kids at the rehearsal? We thought it'd be something fun. And of course we said, yes, we can. And they absolutely wanted the bus. So, you know, and these are high school kids. We're used to it being a hit at middle school and elementary, but even the high schoolers think this is like a really cool piece of equipment to have supporting their event. But after the bus, my favorite is the kiosk, the open kiosk, and that's just because it's open to the event, and so it's a different type of experience. You're not sort of closed into the building and just looking out. You're more a part of the event, and so we love the kiosk too.
Do you ever have anybody, and Dawn, I think, Aaron, you got Dawn
Let me
muted if you unmute her, but from both of you.
there you go, Don, and also
People that the bus is too gimmicky or the school theme is a negative?
We sometimes consider that when we're looking at the event. For example, we're doing a graduation dinner at a Catholic school for 8th graders, and so we presented the bus because we love the bus because there's no setup. I mean, you just pull up, you can be serving within 3 minutes, and so that's the equipment that we push the most. But we did have the coordinator say that, you know, they're 8th graders, they're going to high school, and so they wanted a different kind of look. But that was the first time we've had that pushback. We participated with it in a really high-end car show with it. We got more pictures of the bus and more excitement than the Lamborghini that was next to us. You feel like a rock star in that thing. You feel like a celebrity. People take pictures of you everywhere. My daughter got. This is amazing. Last Thursday, my husband was on the road going to an event we do every Thursday night. And my daughter ends up getting this Instagram of her father driving to the work site of some kid that was on the road and took the picture and put it on Instagram and told people, I've never seen anything like this. This is so cool. And then my daughter was like, you know, secondhand. I don't really know how Instagram works, but she ends up getting this Instagram. And she's like, look, Mom, there's Dad driving. And I'm like, put our website on there. So you can call us. But the bus is unreal. Carl and his team that put this thing together, it has they know, they work the business, so they've put everything in it that you could possibly need. My husband's 6 feet. He can comfortably work in it. It's just, and it's not, like, we have the Astro version of it, so it fits everywhere. As long as we can get a car in, we can get the bus in. And we just love it. So, yeah, you can do everything from route sales with it to school parties to, right now my husband has the bus at a preschool kindergarten. He's serving 400 kids. It'll take them about an hour. It won't take him an hour, but he's going to sit there for an hour. And we charge $300 for that party for 40 kids. So, and that's cash.
Do you always use the flavor station on the side, or do you take a freestanding flavor station as well on occasion?
Well, we did 2,500 shaved ice in 2 hours for an Easter egg roll. We actually had two freestanding flavor stations, and we did not use the one on the bus. So when you do the real high volume events, when you have a really short window of time, you know, like a whole school, this school that we have coming up next week, we'll use 3 freestanding flavor stations just to circulate the kids through because we only have 2 hours. So we actually figured, we did an event, we can do 100 kids in 15 minutes. But we do use a freestanding flavor station when we do that many kids that quickly. He's doing this preschool today. He'll use the one that's on the bus. It's 40 kids. You know, it's fine. But the real high volume events, you might want to consider the flavor station, which is another genius thing that Snowie has. By the way,
Yeah, I agree.
Besides the shaver. Snowie's done, and I read people's feedback online about, well, isn't there a lot of waste at the bottom? You would be surprised how little waste there is even when you let 3-year-olds loose on a flavor station. It's no comparison. I mean, you can process thousands of people in, you know, a few hours just because you have the flavor station.
Can I ask you a question, Beth?
Sure.
Have you been to an event where you've competed with other shaved ice companies?
Oh, absolutely.
And so, in your thoughts, do you think that you win over those customers with the bus and the flavor station?
Without a doubt, and we're more expensive. And we have a really large Mexican American population here in Southern California. It's huge with Mexican Americans shaved ice. It's like ice cream to Americans. So it's a cultural thing, and a lot of the shaved ice vendors here, they sell their shaved ice for $1. Well, we sell ours for $3 in most places for a small. We have people that make minimum wage send their kids over with $3 to buy from us when there may be 4 other, you know, I'm not shaved ice, but they call them raspados,
Yeah.
but it's snow vendors in the same event, which is amazing to me because it's like, I mean, I probably would give my kid $1 and say, go over to that guy, but the kids want to use the flavor station, like our flavors. They're, you know, a lot of the Mexican people, they're actually crushing pineapple, so they have fresh pineapple, and we have like an artificial pineapple, but they'd rather pay more for ours just because of, I guess, the jazz.
I think a lot of it is to do with the flavor station, also the appearance that you present too makes a huge thing. So,
Dawn, what about you? Do you use the flavor station or just strictly the one built in, or do you use a freestanding?
Well, we just bought our freestanding last year. We actually got into some of the Indy 500 festival events last year, and the very first one that we did, it was the biggest event we'd ever done, and I called you on my way home and ordered a freestanding flavor station because we had people waiting 45 minutes in line for a snow cone, and it was hot last year in May. And we just figured, you know, only 1 or 2 people can get around the flavor station on the bus, and it's under one of our serving windows. I have the Astro version as well. So it's under our second serving window. So we were taking money out of the back and, you know, handing the snow cone out, and then they move over and they have to wait in line at the flavor station. And you don't want them waiting in line and their snow cone melting while they're waiting on flavor. So we were slow, you know, taking the money and handing them out so they didn't melt. And I just figured we could have tripled our money with the standalone flavor station. So on the way home from that event, I called you, Lyle. I said, I need a flavor station. So a couple of weeks later, we did the 500 Festival Parade, and we had the flavor station, and we almost tripled our money. It was hot, and if we're not doing just a handful of kids, like we too have some preschools. We're triple booked today in our bus, triple booked tomorrow. We're doing 2 preschool events today, and then an event for Gleaners Food Bank in Connorsville this afternoon. But we will use the bus flavor station for the preschool because it's about 40 kids, give or take a few, either way. When we go to the park in Connorsville, we will use the freestanding flavor station. So it just depends on the size of the event. But if it's going to be more than just a class of kids, or if we're at a football field or something like that, we always use the freestanding flavor station.
Thank you.
It's no trouble at all to set that thing up. It's easy. So.
A couple of questions Jay asked on the chat line. How do you store the bus? Jay, I'm not sure quite what you're looking for. Are you talking in the winter time or just on a daily basis? And so
Beth, how do you guys store it?
Can you see?
Mine sits in my driveway. Mine sits in my driveway.
Oh my goodness.
okay.
And what?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Beth, now.
Oh, great. There's no way. My husband and I fight about this all the time because I don't want my bus to be missing in the morning. We live in a gated community, but this thing is so hot. We store our equipment indoors. We store it at a storage facility in an RV unit. It's supposed to be at a commissary, but you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm. In the wintertime, I have it at a
mine
covered.
just got deleted.
We pay for the commissary, but there's no way I would leave it over there. We store it in a secured security RV storage. And to be honest with you, our building that we've had since 2007, by storing it indoors, the decals are just as beautiful as they were the day we bought the building. So it is an extra expense, I know, but it will preserve the building. We don't have snow or rain here, basically, but we have sun.
Mm-hmm.
The sun will deteriorate, your equipment if it's left outside, and we just store it inside.
Perfect. I want to extend that question to buildings and kiosks. How do you guys go about storing those?
Mine's covered. I'm in a covered storage when it's off season.
Okay.
How about you, Ron?
Well, right now I have a public storage unit with a 12-foot door. I'm concerned about, my building is over 10 feet tall with the air conditioner, and so I can't get it into a standard 10-foot door roll-up. And so I'm looking for office, warehouse, something to store multiple units. Anybody have suggestions about that?
We use an airfield.
A hangar?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's interesting.
We just rent space there.
Do you do any deep sinks or any of that stuff, commissary things?
No.
Okay.
I don't have to, so.
Okay. Well, I'm running into health department issues with, they're kind of on top of it. They won't let us put it on the ground, take the wheels off. They insist on you immersing the 5-gallon containers, so you have to have deep sinks and so forth. So we're not doing it now. We're getting around to using temporary permits, but I'd sure like to have a permanent permit or something sometime.
One of the things, we ran into the same thing, Ron, and ended up with, we rented a small, just a 15, I think it was a 12 or 1,500 square foot warehouse, and just took one corner and built a small enclosed area and put a 3-sink system in it.
Did it have a 12-foot door roll up?
And it had a 12-foot door. Because, the buildings with the air conditioner are about 10 and a half, but when you put them up on the wheels, you're about 11 feet. So you need a 12-foot door to be able to get in there. But I did a lot of driving around, looking for that place, and went in and set it up pretty quickly and pretty simply. And every time you expand, like now we've got a warehouse with 14-foot doors and a little easier, but it's, that takes a few years to get to that point.
Sure.
But it's, you'd be amazed. You can watch these auction sites, find a 3-sink system, had a plumber come in and for $500 put the sink system tap into the water lines and the drain. And now the one thing that I do not have to do here is grease traps on the 3-sink system, because we're dealing with just ice and syrup. Some health departments will require grease traps on your 3-sink system. So that's one thing to look into when you go to do something like that.
Okay.
Hey,
Go
ahead.
I actually put a little area in my garage. I have I don't know how big it is, probably, I don't know how big it is, but it's like a little room itself, and I actually put a commercial sink in there last year with a hot water heater, and I bought the 50-gallon mixer from Snowie. It made my life a whole lot easier. I'm not required to work out of a commissary yet. I believe it will probably come, although the health department just loves our setup. I never have any issues, no matter where I go. But I don't know what it takes to get it certified, but I would like to look into it. But it just made my life a whole lot easier. So.
Beth, I assume you may have wanted to add to this. I have to mute you. We're getting some echo off of it. So
Okay.
if you ever want to speak, also just type down in the text field. Are you on your computer?
No, I'm on my little phone.
Oh,
my
you're
big
on the phone.
phone.
Okay, I'll just keep kind of coming back to you. Did you want to add anything to that?
In Southern California, we have some of the strictest health code in the country. We can't do a real simple commissary like you guys are describing. It turns into, we've been, for the past 5 years, we've been toying with the idea of doing the commissary, but it's really a daunting task out here, because you have to dig drains, and you have to do the grease trap, and so also with the bus, we were in the process of getting a year-round permit for it, but they require so many alterations that are just ridiculous that we're just going to go get our temporary permits. And to be honest with you, 99% of the time, you're at a private place or you're at a school, we just don't get it. So we've got permits on 2 of our equipment, and then the rest of it doesn't have it, and then, you know, that's just the way we're doing it out here. But, you know, if they catch you here, you just pay the $89 temporary fee. So it's really a big deal.
There's another line to delete.
Hey, real quick, I'm going to unmute everybody. I'm looking for Robbie, and I just want to see if
I'm
you.
here.
Robbie?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're here. Great. Hey,
Yeah.
Robbie, we've had some owners sharing their experience, and I wanted to make sure we got to you, and thank you very much for coming.
You did. My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
So we just wanted to talk about, I think our echo is coming from Beth. I'm going to mute you again, Beth, here. And well, it looks like we have some anyway. But Robbie, go ahead and share your experience, what you did before, what maybe you still do along with it, what got you into doing shaved ice, and what made you choose Snowie over the alternatives.
You know, sure, my pleasure. I used to work for an electric company, you know, just like the average person down here, and we're out in Texas, so we've got really good weather for shaved ice. But we eventually got laid off, just like a lot of other people, and we decided to, you know, become our own boss and be in control of, you know, try to be in control of our own destiny. And we started looking for a mobile unit, and, you know, as soon as my wife and I saw the Snowie bus online, it was an immediate yes. You know, we saw this thing, and, you know, in so many places, you drive up and down the streets during the summertime, and there's snow cone stands everywhere. You know, it's almost like they're a dime a dozen. And so our view on that was, especially with the Snowie bus, you got to have something that really stands out. And when we purchased that, you know, it sold itself. We didn't have to advertise. We made a few stops at schools and churches and whatnot, provided free snow cones to the staff, and it's like, oh my gosh, what is it? We got to have this for our, you know, our youth group, our preschool, and from there it just skyrocketed. But the way we're set up, and we've been doing it for this is our 3rd or 4th summer, and the way we're set up, I'll tell you about the largest event we did. Well, one of the largest events, the ones I kept count at. It was a prepaid, so, you know, we didn't make any changes. That makes it a lot easier. But it was one of the largest Baptist churches here in Texas, and they had dinner on the grounds. And it was just my wife and I. And with this Snowie 3000 machine and that Snowie bus, I'm telling you, this thing is a mobile money-making machine. We shaved 608 snow cones and served that many people per hour at that event that day. Nobody waited in line. Nobody got hot. Everybody got their own flavors. It was amazing. So, you know, as far as the way this bus is set up, I've never seen anything better.
Awesome.
So that's kind of our story in a nutshell.
Hey, Robbie, Estela's over.
I was just wondering, on that day, how much did you guys end up making?
You know, we were there. We sold them. Now, we did give them a special break. It was a church, and we did a smaller cut. But we served for about 3 hours or so.
Yeah.
Not, you know, yeah, and in fact, they closed it, you know, closed all the bounce houses down and asked everybody to close their confession window while they did a baptism. And so we even took, you know, that time into consideration in our numbers. But it was amazing. We've been to an air show before with this Snowie bus. And, you know, this air show was a dud, believe me. The wind was blowing. They couldn't get any balloons up in the air. It was hot. But we were the only shaved ice vendor out there. And it started at, the crowd came in at 3, and we didn't have a break until 10. And that day alone, we counted very meticulously. It was over $4,200 in one day.
That's
so
awesome.
We were just my wife and I in that Snowie bus. It was amazing. We were tired, but when we counted everything, we were, you know, a real happy tired.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Also, if anybody's curious, there's the video that startup.com did on Snowie Shaved Ice. There's a link on it on Snowie, and you guys can see a little feature on Robbie and his wife, Gay, as well. And we have somebody arriving.
I was curious, Robbie, did you use the internal flavor station or a freestanding one for that event?
You know, we work it different every time because, you know, each crowd is potentially different. So at the air show where we did that quantity and at that church, we used, I had 2 flavor stations that were mounted on the bus, and then that one standalone that Snowie sells as well with the 6 different flavors, 18 valves.
Yeah, the small freestanding. Yeah.
Right. And see what we did with that one, we set it not far from the bus, but away from the bus so that the line coming into the main window, you know, that would pull the crowd over that direction and get it away from the bus, kind of, you know, so that more people could come in and grab a cone.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We have a question. I'm not sure which event, Jay, you're referring to, but it said, how much did it cost you to get into that show?
Probably the air show.
Probably the air show, yeah.
You know, that particular air show, it seems like it was about a $400 entry fee, maybe just a little bit less. We found that many different shows are different. I mean, we've paid as much as $800, but we paid as much as $1,200 to get into one, and you know, barely broke even. And then we've gone to some events where, you know, it was a couple $100, and we made $2,000 on top of that. So there's some give and take there. You can also find events. We've got one that we do at Addison to Boomtown, Texas. I think it was ranked number 3 in the nation. It didn't cost us a dime to get in there, but the guy running the concessions charged 40% of our take. So what we did, we just went up $1 a cup on each size that we offered. And so out of pocket, I think it cost us maybe, you know, somewhere around 20% of what we made to participate in that event. But it was one of those events where percentage-wise, you know, if we make the money, then you make the money. If it's a slow event, then we're not going to be paying out a whole lot.
One of the things, Aaron, you jumped ahead on your slideshow. There was one there that had those little brochures. This is just kind of
send me one of those.
a side note. I started putting those in my bus everywhere we go. Now go forward. This is a bigger one that we use to hand out when we stop at daycares and businesses and that kind of stuff. We always put in the allergen-free and sugar-free available, but there's a narrower one, that one right there. We put that in a little holder, and it sits in the window of every event we go to. Or we even put it, if sometimes we have limited room, we put it behind the napkins, and it sticks up about 4 inches above the napkins and says, invite the bus. People pick these up like crazy. Right now, I'm averaging probably 3 to 5 calls a week requesting us for birthday parties, graduation parties, company functions. People see this, they love it, they pick it up and call us and say, hey, can you come do this for me? So I even have a couple of these sitting in UPS stores or print shops and that kind of stuff. Like the guy that prints these for me, it sits in his shop and anybody can grab one while they're in his shop. So we've got them at different kind of places around the city that people are like, hey, this is cool. And the person in there, we've usually stopped and done an event for them for free, you know, come by and done something for their employees if they'll put that up. So they're like, hey, that's a good deal. We'll trade off with you. But it keeps our name constantly in front of the public in a different way.
Lyle, can I
Yes.
throw something in? For those of you that don't have the bus, this is a great way. You could put invite Snowie and change the wording, and you can take your trailer or your kiosk or whatever you have. It doesn't have to be the bus, but this is a great idea that you could use on anything that you have of ours. So this is really neat. I just wanted to point that out, that it doesn't have to just be the bus.
Excellent point. Thank you. Because, yeah, and, you know, this basic, you know, we can provide this in a file. And obviously you'd replace the picture with a picture of a kiosk in there. I just drew a blank on what I was going to ask. Come back to me. Let's open up. Do we have any other questions? I wasn't watching those, Aaron. Oh, cost to get into shows. This is, Jay just talked about, is it hard to get into ballparks, speedways, or big sporting events? The larger, the more commercial it is, the more difficult. one of the things that I have found that makes it the greatest challenge is when they do talk to you, they don't want one booth. They're looking like we do the Kentucky Speedway. And they didn't want to talk about one. They were looking for 5 to 8 locations. And we're able to go in and we do 7 for the Kentucky Speedway. The college, a lot of times you can get into a college stadium and get in there with just 1, 2, or 3 of them, so a little easier. But the bigger the event, the more locations they are going to want to have, and that becomes part of the challenge there. They also tend to be far more expensive on the percentage. When I'm talked about the 40% charge, we experience the same thing. Speedway, University of Kentucky football, those are a 40% fee to be there.
Yeah, all of the arenas I'm in are 40%.
That's pretty average.
Yeah, and I want to share Carl's story about Las Vegas Motor Speedway, can I?
Sure.
I think this is a cool story. So, and I'll make it really short, but basically, they were trying to negotiate over the phone, and the guy was like, "No, I'm not interested." And Carl basically said, "Look, I'm here. I'm in Vegas. I'm in your parking lot. Just come out and see our stand." And he was pulling a kiosk, an 8-foot kiosk. And the guy literally opened the door, stepped foot on the pavement, and as soon as his foot hit the ground, he was like, "You're in. I want 9 of them." And it changed everything. Look is a big deal. We talk about it a lot, but look is everything, because in their mind, when you're negotiating over the phone, they think you're a modified tough shed. It's just what comes to mind. And they're like, "You know what? I don't want just some hokey stand put in here, and I also need 9 of them. I want them to be professional." And so the look makes a big, big difference. Whenever I pitch stuff too, I do everything I can to try and make a physical appointment so they can come and see and touch and taste. But anyway, thought it was a cool story.
I agree. Aaron,
Can I add
Beth
to
wants
that?
to comment. Unmute her.
You know what, Aaron?
Go ahead, Beth.
That's happened to us before, exactly. We've been behind on, a deadline to apply for a certain show. This was the Weatherford Peach Festival, and they said, "Well, we're full right now." And I said, "Can I send you a picture of our setup?" We sent them a picture of that bus, and the phone rang, and she said, "I think I've got a spot for y'all." It's amazing. You're exactly right.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Beth, go ahead.
Okay. We live 5 minutes. We can hear the Coachella Music Festival, which has become one of the biggest music festivals in the world. And they also require a couple grand down and 40%. We made a decision not to do it just because of when we first started, we were getting into some of the events that charged, $1,800, $1,500. And we just decided as a business principle that we weren't going to do those kind of shows, because we're the ones that put the investment into this equipment, and we're bringing, equipment with a competitive advantage, and we're much more professional than some of the other people they're going to try to get. So we don't do those types of shows. I'd much rather find a church, like a big Baptist church or a big non-denominational church, and do, and be a prepaid thing and give out snow cones and make. For Easter, I think we got $2,500. No, it was actually $3,000, but we gave out 2,500 6-ounce cones in 2 hours. So, and we were done in 2 hours. We preparing for an hour and cleaning up for an hour, but it was a 4-hour day. What we found is that works better for our lifestyle, because the one gentleman that came on and said he and his wife did $4 grand from, I think he said 3 to 10 at night. They were working, and we do that too. Don't get me wrong, but we don't turn very much down but our callers, but we just don't pay the big bucks to get in, and we don't go with 40% down. So it's payback. So it just depends on what you decide to do with your business, and we have been focusing a lot on the bus, but we've had all the other equipment for almost 7 years, and I would say, I wouldn't trade my kiosk for anything, and even the umbrella stand. We get $300 to do a birthday party, and it's just a really good business. And I hope any of you all considering the snow equipment if nothing else, you realize that you got to get the Snowie stuff, but what you get will just depend on what you, you know, your budget and what you think you want to get into. But the shaver, by far, I mean, we have 5 of them now, and we've only had problems with one, and we were able to get a new motor from it. I mean, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of shaved ice cones. We've had one problem with one motor, and it was what we did to store it was wrong, so it was our fault. Snowie just, you know, sold us a new motor, and we found a little machine shop here to put it in, and it's just quality equipment, and I just can't praise it enough. We picked the right company, and I wouldn't have changed anything about how we got into this business. Snowie will stand behind you. You can call any of the people. We even have Carl's cell phone number. We called him really early when we were first in the business because we were having problems with a hot water heater, and he walked us through it, and we were able to pass the inspection and sell for the day. They stand behind everything they make, and great company.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
Thank you.
One thing real quick. Jay, you had also asked about getting into the ballparks and speedways, but very much like Beth just said, sometimes you get so caught up in chasing the big things, you miss the money makers. Contrast that, I have an event I'll do this weekend that is 4 soccer complexes. There's about 350 teams in this tournament, and average we'll do over a 3-day period, we'll do about $10,000, but my fee is only 15%. I'll do the speedway and we'll sell a lot more, but by the time I'm done, I made more money with less hassle with the 4 soccer tournaments than I did with the speedway. So just I look for baseball, softball, lacrosse, and soccer tournaments. I'd be happy if that's all I did every weekend. They make good money, and your percentage is typically 15 or 20%.
We a lot of times we'll offer. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times we'll sponsor a team, like at our little league fields, and where I live, we sponsor a team. It's $250 to sponsor a team for a summer. When we do that, we only offer them 10%. But last year we gave that ball field, we sponsored a team, and we gave them $1,800 back.
And they're ecstatic with that.
They are, and it helps us. Our bus is down there every single day, unless we have another event. So we're out somewhere almost every day in our bus, and we're making money. So
awesome, that's great. Sorry, we're reading a question here.
Jay, you said they won't let you into the ballparks. Don't go to the city ones. Find the private ballparks. There's a lot of them out there. And go to the rural communities. They all have soccer fields. I would get online and just start looking up tournaments for each of those, and then find the independents that do it. There's a lot of independent ball fields for girls fast pitch, boys baseball, especially lacrosse and soccer. I've even started doing these 3-on-3 tournaments and have had great success with those. They're kind of an off-the-wall. It's a 3-on-3 soccer tournament that just does really well, and again, 15% to be there.
Yeah, so just here at the end, I would like to open it up to everyone. I'm going to unmute everyone. Let's hope we don't have an echo frenzy, but if anybody has any verbal questions they would like to ask, we'd love to hear them. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I knew this is Miller. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I messed up and bought a Snowie. I got the Snowie 1000, but I got the AC version. Is it hard to switch motors from the DC motor to the AC motor? I mean, from the AC motor to the DC motor.
Yeah, Millard, hang on for me really quick. Okay, Millard, I have you unmuted now, so now we have much less echo. What's that?
Oh, okay. Well, I was just curious as to how difficult it will be to replace I bought the Snowie 1000 with an AC motor, but I should have got the DC motor that runs off the battery, because the inverters are really particular, and they got to keep up them 10.5 amps, and mine's constantly popping off. and I had to reset my inverter. And
Right.
if I had it run straight to the battery, it would be better. So is it a lot of trouble to replace the AC motor with the DC motor?
No, it's an hour's worth of work tops.
So it, can you switch it? How much does a DC motor cost? Is another question I guess I have.
Do we have
Then I'm going to ballpark this because I don't know exactly. But the DC,
okay.
you get the motor with the wiring harness and everything you would need, because we'd have to build that out, that we put in our DC shavers. I want to say it's in the 450 to 500 range.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I was thinking about just getting another one altogether. I love the machine.
Well, that's my suggestion, is have both.
Yeah, we went to a show, and I had a 1,000, and the other fellow had a 3,000. Really, the only difference I could tell, and there wasn't a difference in the snow. It's just his was bigger.
Yeah, it holds more ice and shaves a little faster. That's the difference.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're just getting into it too, so I'm just mainly listening. I'm starting to go around those different projects, and I got my business license, and I don't have a Snowie bus because I couldn't afford one, but I got something. It's eye-catching. It's a van that I've modified, and it looks real professional and pretty, and I got it painted up green and red and yellow, and I got my Snowie 1000 mounted inside of it. Really, I'm just trying to listen and get some heads up on some things.
Thank you. And also, Calvin has asked this question a couple of times. He's asking if there are any discounts for veterans as far as purchase price for buildings and buses.
There really is no, so to speak, discount for like a veteran, but usually if we have a certain price on our website that is like it's the asking price. If you were to combine it with a shaver and some other supplies, there may be a small discount on the building when they do that. It's kind of like a turnkey.
Okay.
I got a question about the flavor stations then.
All right.
Here's what I've been curious about. The flavor stations, if you set them in the middle of you're doing a park or theme, and it's 100 degrees outside, and your syrup gets hot inside the flavor station, don't it mess up it melts the ice. What I do with my bottles, I keep them in a cooler, and when I put that flavor in them, it don't melt my ice. If people finally bite into it, they're like, oh God, that's good. So my question is does Snowie have an option where they could, I don't know, some kind of maybe design one with an air conditioner in it to keep the flavors cold, maybe cool, maybe some kind of little AC unit. I mean, is that on the board or something y'all would think about, or?
I've never, as far as keeping the flavors cool, I was reading some questions too, so I don't want to be the only one coming in here, but I think I got your question right, that you're wondering basically just any way that we're cooling our flavors so that they go on the shaved ice.
Yeah.
Cold. Yeah, I've never found it necessary. I've had like really, really hot events that we've done, and I've never had it to where it was necessary. Like the flavor never got so hot that it was like melting the snow.
Well, here's an example. So I can tell you, I got one of the guys' snow cones just out of curiosity with the 3000, and it was about 90 degrees last week, and when the flavor hit the ice, it did melt it, and it weren't as good as mine that I had in a cooler. Mine was a lot brighter, and it was more pungent, and it grabbed you more and said, that's good, where his was more like, I don't know, it was a little more watered, it was watered down. And my thought right there was, well, when the water, that hot syrup hit that shaved ice, it melted it, altered the flavor. The Snowie flavors I use, people around here I've started a craze with these things. Everywhere I go, people look forward to me. They chase me down. So I was just curious, about the flavor stations. You know, I know you said it makes no difference, but it kind of does a little bit when the flavors hit the ice and it melts. Your flavor ain't as good as it could be, which is fine if you're just doing events and you're not going to go back to them. But I'm looking for repeat customers, and I want people to love me to death, which they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Aaron. I've never felt a need for it, and you know that the cost to try to heat a flavor or to cool a flavor station and do it, that's something we'd have to do some thinking on. I don't know, you know, the economics of it, how it would work. That'd be interesting to look at a little more. It's something we'll look at, take into consideration. Thanks for the input on it.
I mean, I've seen people put an umbrella over the flavor station, and that's an option. I think it's to provide shade for the customers, but it could also keep it cooler. I don't know. It's just an option, but that's something that the customer did on their own.
Yeah.
Beth, you had something you wanted to say?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Beth.
you got Beth muted still. There.
I thought I had. Okay, Beth. Well, are you there? There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me? I thought that was a great suggestion to keep the flavors cold. I don't know if my husband will go for it because it's like another step, but I think we live in the desert, so it gets to be 115, 118 out here. So I want to try that. I don't know how long, like you said, the flavors will stay cold, but we have a freezer pack that we could possibly put underneath the flavors in the flavor station. So maybe we'll try that. We have one of those little carts that the ice cream men have, and we bought these plates that you can put in it that keeps the ice cream cold. It's an alternative to dry ice, so that might be an option for us. I'd like to try it, but I just wanted to also emphasize the flavor station is just awesome. It just helps you, like I think Don said that triple your business or even quadruple your business with so much less work on your part, because all you're doing is throwing ice out the window and maybe grabbing some money, but you know, you lose time with putting flavors on where you could be taking another $3 from somebody. So for those of you who think, wow, that's a lot of money to invest, you will not second think it at all. We have 3 of them now, and I'd have 5 of them if we can figure out how to buy some more of them. You know, it's just a great tool, and it separates you from a mom and pop to, you know, somebody that's serious about making as much money as you possibly can when you're at the event.
I'll be honest. I think I have more trouble in my building keeping the flavors cool than I do in my flavor station at an event, because my flavor bottles are sitting in the windows in the building and they really get hot. But I don't think I've ever had a customer complain about it. I mean,
Jay asked the question, how do you determine what price per cup on a prepaid event? Good luck. That's I'm curious how you guys do that. How do you determine what price to charge if somebody wants to buy ahead of time, whether you're doing an event or whether you're using a kiosk or a bus? What kind of pricing do you use for your snow cones?
I typically don't change my price.
I
think Jay wants on, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, okay. Instead of raising their hand. All right, we got you. There you go. Go ahead. Oh.
What'd you do? Just delete them?
No. Are you there? Oh, maybe I need to. I think there's a couple there. Go ahead. It still has like a gray. There we go.
Hi, I just wanted to show my face and say thank you so much for doing these webinars, and this has been so helpful, and I want to thank all of the other vendors today for coming on, because to have their experience added into this has really been so helpful, and I know that Jay and I greatly appreciate it, and we're really looking forward to getting started with it, so thank you.
My apology, Lisa, for calling you Jay.
Jay.
I know. I as soon as he took his head, I went, "Oh boy, I blew the name," and realized that.
We've actually never seen Jay vertical before. He always comes in horizontal. There he is.
That's it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And again, Ron, I unmuted you as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know almost everybody I talked to said we're doing an event at the exact time, but everybody made it happen, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I think we'll go ahead and close this one up, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great being with you.